preamps may actually be just as important, if not more important, to your recordings than the microphone choice itself. Hear me out. I know that's a claim, but you're listening to me talk through the SM57, and I'm going into the SSL2 Mark II. You can see my voice right there. Well, I bet you're going to be able to hear a difference. Same exact microphone, same exact placement, same room. The only difference is you're listening to that microphone plugged into the Rupert Neve Designs Newton channel. You can hear a difference, can't you? You see, I think that the preamp is maybe the best first studio upgrade right behind like a good set of monitors. So today we're going to compare 3 preamps at drastically different price points. I've got one at $259, I've got one at $1,000, and I've got another at $2,000. So you can hear them all for yourself. Let's get into it. Hey, commenter, give me a sec. This is a miracle. The fact that these things even exist is amazing. The fact that they exist at a pretty low price point is a miracle. If this is all you can afford, you could take over the world with something like this. This is good enough. However, the other side to that is to say that there is no difference between the preamps that are built into those things and a dedicated outboard preamp would also be doing you a disservice. And in fact, there's a lot of marketing dollars that are spent to imply just that. It's just as good as this, or, oh, this plugin does the same exact thing. Think of how many plugins that sells. So let's talk about what a preamp actually does and why it chose the microphone that I did. You know, it's funny, even this SM57, it's not even plugged in anymore. If I speak into it, it will actually generate a signal. Like my voice will vibrate the capsule and that will create a small amount of voltage, but it's infinitesimally small. Like it's super tiny. It's what they call mic level signal. And in order to actually be able to record that signal, we need to send it through a preamp that will bring it up to line level signal. So it's just increasing the voltage. This is where I think a lot of skeptics jump in because they'll say, oh, it's just an increase in voltage. There's no difference between, this preamp or that preamp. And to me, I feel like, you're just missing so much of the fun because it's kind of like comparing like a loaf of store-bought sandwich bread to a loaf of artisan sourdough. Same ingredients, you got, your flour, water, salt, maybe some yeast, but drastically different end products. As it turns out, anything that you introduce to your signal path will alter the sound. So transformers, tubes, capacitors, resistors, all of it. So let's talk about the preamps we're going to use today. So I've got 3 preamps that we're going to use to shoot out against the built-in preamps of the SSL2 Mark II. I'm going to give you clear A/B examples. The first is going to be the Black Lion Audio Auteur, and that is a $259 affordable beast of a preamp. That thing is so good. And then right above that, we've got the Universal Audio 710 Twin-Finity. That runs about $1,000. And then, of course, at the top of the budget, we've got the Rupert Neve Designs Newton channel. So let's listen to it. What I always love about those preamp shootouts is the difference in like bigness is what I call it, or perceived loudness. Perceived is the key word. Everything was level matched, I promise. No post-processing, I promise. But the difference in perceived loudness actually comes from that addition of all of that harmonic content and saturation that just all of a sudden pops up in a signal. It's like when you were listening to the guitar that was recorded through the SSL preamp, it sounded fine. It sounded good even, right? There was nothing wrong with it. And then you heard the Rupert Neve designs kick in and you're like, we just opened up the floodgates of like harmonic content and saturation. Like, it sounded so much more rich. And even though the microphone was the exact same and not even all that expensive of a microphone, these are $109, SM57, it's a classic, you got so much more out of that microphone, right? So there's three things that I judge a preamp off of. The first is bigness. The second is going to be the particular flavor of color and saturation that it brings. And then last but not least is going to be its stackability. So how well does it work whenever you're recording like 15, 20 tracks and they just all start stacking up? Does everything sit in a mix cohesively, or is there something that sticks out like a sore thumb? All right, let's talk about the preamps. Now, the first one that I've got here is the Black Lion Audio Auteur. You are listening to the sound of this preamp right now in this talking head. These things are incredible for the price. Really, like $259. If you're interested, I have links down below. It helps out the channel if you use them. But like $259 for that preamp. Like, think about what that means. So many people that I have known have upgraded their like Mark II interface to the Mark III or whatever it is and not experienced any benefit. If they would have spent their money on this, they would have noticed probably a night and day difference. So this is a fantastic value for the money, $259. So let's give it a rating in all of the three categories. So for bigness, 8.5 out of 10. It sounds really big. It does. It offers plenty of that bigness. The overall character, saturation, 6 out of 10. It's not a super colorful preamp. If you're going for a 1073 type of sound, this isn't going to be your option. It's clean, but it's not sterile or stale or clinical. It's clean. It's pleasant. And then for stackability, I'm going to give it a 9.25 out of 10. You can record stuff all day through this preamp and not run into any real issues. The only thing I will say is it does sound like mid-forward. So like, if you are recording a bunch of stuff through this, you might watch out for that like 1K to like 4K range, like in there. That can start to maybe sound a little bit crowded, but just be aware of it. And it's nothing that you can't work with in the mixing stage. Great preamp. All right, next up, we've got the Universal Audio, the Twin-Finity, the 710 Twin-Finity. This is the sound of my voice through this preamp. This is what it sounds like. I love these preamps. It's like talking to an old friend. They have a lot of color and character. I'm a big fan of these things on acoustic guitar. It's still, to date, my all-time favorite guitar cab mic preamp, hands down. Okay, so let's give it some ratings. So bigness, 9 out of 10. It sounds big. It sounds huge. What else can you say? It sounds great. Color, vibe, character. This is where this thing actually shines. So this, I'm going to give it a 9.4 out of 10. The secret sauce is in that trans tube knob in the middle. Here, I'm going to do a little bit of a demonstration for you. So I'm going to take that knob all the way to the left. There we go. And now you're hearing the sound of my voice all the way on the transistor side. It's not a transformer, it's a transistor. So it's got a little bit more crispness. It's a little bit more open on the top end. And now we're going to just slowly turn it all the way to about noon is where we are now. So it's introducing some of that tube warmth and character. And now we're about 75% tube, so you can really start to hear that tube like dial in. And now we're at about 100%, just 100% on the tube side. I tend to, for like voiceover uses, like 70, 75% on the tube side. But here's the magic of this preamp. When you're recording something, have some headphones on, right? Like be in the room with your artist or whoever you're listening to. And as the artist is strumming their guitar or whatever it is, take that trans tube knob and start like sweeping back and forth, and somewhere around like 3 to 9, like 9 to 3 on the clock, you're going to find a spot where harmonics just open up. and it becomes so harmonically rich. And that is the sweet spot. And so for these preamps, I highly recommend using them that way instead of just, 100% tube today, because there's a chance that by dialing that back just a little bit, you might get some like harmonic content and richness from the transistor and then some from the tube, and you just get this perfect blend of the two. It's so good. Okay, and then stackability. Stackability, I'm going to give it an 8.5. If you start stacking up too much on the tube side, it starts to make your mix sound a little bit too warm. I know that because this was the first outboard preamp that I ever purchased. Well, second, but like the first one I didn't return. I've stacked up so many tracks through this. I can tell you right now, if you do use it, just, be aware that if you use it a lot on that tube side, or if you're tube leaning, it can start to make things sound a little bit warm. But you can still stack up tracks through this. It's a great sounding preamp. All right, you are now listening to the sound of my voice as it's recorded through the Rupert Neve Designs Newton channel strip. This is $2,000, top of the budget. This is what it sounds like. I like this preamp a lot. I think it's great. And it's actually a channel strip. It's not just a preamp. It's also got an EQ and a compressor. We're just going to talk about the preamp section for now, but let's give it a rating. So, bigness. 9.8 out of 10. This thing does sound absolutely massive. I think you could agree with me on that. It does give us so much more harmonic content. It does sound huge. Color, saturation, flavor. I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. Here's the reason why. It gives you something that they call silk and texture, and it's this knob that you can turn off. All right, and I've bypassed it entirely. You're now just hearing nothing more than the preamp itself. And the preamp itself is actually pretty clean. It's got a little something going on, but it's not what I would describe as like a very colorful preamp. It just has a little something to it. But when you engage the silk, they give you two kinds. They give you red and blue. So now I've got the red engaged, and let's turn it up. And that's red about halfway. On the lower levels, it's so subtle, it's almost not even something that you really hear. And then here it is about 75% of the way up. I would probably personally dial this in between 60 and 75%, because once it goes past that, here it is all the way up. To my ears, it does push out the high end just a little bit too much, and you may have to start worrying about that in your mixing stage. And you may have to recover some of like the detail while taming the harshness, which is never a fun thing to do. But I do like the red silk about 60 to 70%. So I'm going to leave it right there for now. Well, actually, let's talk about the blue. Okay, so blue turned all the way down, and we're starting to turn it up, and now it's about halfway. This is the sound of blue silk about halfway up. You'll notice it's going to start filling out the low end information a little more. And now we're about 75% of the way up and completely dimed. The blue silk sounds good. I think my favorite is the red silk, but I really like that you have the ability to kind of dial in your like own personal taste. So I'm going to dial it back to about there. Stackability. I'm going to give it a 9. And the reason why is because I like the flavor. I wish it had a little more. It's like a refined sugar sweetness. When you crank it up, it just can be too much, which is why the flavor is only a 9 out of 10. Stackability, same reasons. If the high end starts getting out of control with most of the tracks that you record, if you start recording like, guitar through it, piano, let's record through it, vocals, let's record through it, backup vocals recorded through it, you may start to get that high end to build up a little too much. So 9 out of 10 for stackability, but overall thoughts, here it is on red silk again. I love playing with this thing. It sounds great. This is like, I would gravitate towards this as like a vocal preamp. This is my lead vocal channel strip. And once you like dial in the compressor and EQ, which again, I'm not going to do right now, but this thing could be an absolute beast, like a money maker for you. This is a killer preamp. I mean, it's a $2,000 preamp that sounds like a $2,000 preamp. I love this thing. Now, one of the reasons why I focused on the SM57 is to show you that you don't need a fancy microphone in order to get the benefits of a good preamp. Every single microphone in your mic closet will get an upgrade when you upgrade your preamp. That's just how it is. I'm not gonna lie to you. You know how everybody says it's the ears, not the gear. Part of the ears is choosing the gear. That is part of the skill. Like, everybody loves to skip over that part, but to be totally honest, the built-in preamps to interfaces are pretty flat sounding. Other people call it clean or neutral. I would call it flat, uninspiring, benign. It's not problematic. Yes, you could take over the world with that sound, but it does need a lot of work in post to get it to sound competitive with other stuff in the space these days. And ultimately, if you do choose to spend $259 upgrading your preamp, that may be a much bigger upgrade than an upgrade to your budget interface, to another budget interface. There's not that much difference between those, but the preamp can be a game changer. Like, think about it like this. If you choose the right microphone and the right preamp and you give it the right flavor and then you get the mic positioning right, you're gonna be right there at the destination of what you're trying to get the sound of. And now in the mixing stage, you don't have to do nearly as much. Like, think about why we love compression and saturation in the mixing process. It's because it brings out all that harmonic content and detail, and we love that. Well, if we're already adding in the harmonic content and detail from the start, you don't have to process it as much in post. Like, instead of compressing the living snot out of something to bring out the harmonic detail, well, your preamp actually brought out a lot of that harmonic detail, and you don't need to compress as much. Now you have a less processed end track, and that will sound so much better in the end result. So, all right. I hope you guys like this type of content. Obviously, I'm very passionate about this particular subject. If you want more videos like this, please consider hitting subscribe. Of course, hitting all the buttons that are down below, hitting the like, comment. Let me know, what you think about this. Am I just a cork sniffer, or did I actually provide you with some value? So, all right, I'll see you guys in the next one.